Today's episode is sponsored by Sandals Resorts. What's up, Chillas? Back with us is Meghan Ely of OFD Consulting. Woo boo! Meghan, welcome back. And we've got more wedding news for you and insights to help you when you're on your wedding journey. Whether you're a couple or a pro, there's a lot to learn today. So Meghan, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. I don't have my Bridechilla shirt on today.
Our Bridechilla Nerd Club.
I was like, did we coordinate? We didn't, but that's okay. This is an unbranded episode, so.
Well, shout out to Kevin Dennis, who part of the Bridechilla Nerd Club and made our t-shirts.
Yeah, he did. Shout out in the first 60 seconds. He'll be thrilled.
Yes. All right, Meghan, so let's deep dive. You've just been a part of a lot of different conferences and events, and obviously you're always in the know because you are the PR pro that leads all of the wedding and event space. So what should we start learning about?
There's a few things to chat about right now. I mean, these times, they are changing. And 2026 is such an interesting time to be a couple, an engaged couple, planning your wedding. It's an interesting time to be a wedding vendor as well, right? And so I think a lot of it, I think one of the big words this year is going to be transparency.
Finally.
Absolutely. You and I talk about trends, right? That's one of the, you said it's a pretty popular episode that you guys do. And one of the trends that we just talked about in like the shift of how couples are planning is they really want to know what your values are. Like they want to know that they're in alignment. Like if the environment and how are you being sustainable? Animals, right? Like I have a friend, Brittany, who does live painting, shout out Brittany Branson, and she donates a portion from each, sitting to do this that goes towards an animal charity, like a rescue charity. And so like people gravitate toward those things, and that's great. And so we saw the writing on the wall in that was a shift in how couples were planning their wedding. And I think I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I feel like I've known you long enough to say, yeah, we're both here for it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we are. And so with that leans towards now the discussion of transparency, right? Not just, of course, in pricing, but we've seen some unnamed controversies coming up as of late, in whether you're on Reddit or TikTok or Reels or what have you, in how people are potentially showcasing their work, right? So we see all sorts of things like how they're showing up and showcasing their work and pricing and all that. And so I think couples these days, are really demanding as much transparency as possible without it going overboard as well, right? Like it shifts too far sometimes when they talk about that wedding tax, which I'm so sick of talking about after 20 years.
I don't know if you had a chance, but we just discussed that.
I hadn't heard that one yet. Oh my gosh. Yeah. As someone who's been fighting this 2020 article and TV show episode that came out like 100 years ago. I mean, we're talking like almost 2 decades ago. I think this was covered.
Shout out to Adrian Gardner of Gardner Effect. Like we talked about the wedding tax.
Yeah. No, I worked in venues for years. And if someone tried to say it was a birthday celebration and then tried to change it to a wedding, I'm like, you do understand that's 800 times more work. Like it's not this same beef tenderloin. Like it's not. There's so much crime done over the beef tenderloin, right? So it's one of those things where I think transparency is going to be the name of the game this year. And I think the couples will continue to be these really savvy consumers. I mean, the statistic shows these Bridechillas, the Groomchillas, all those, they're more like they're at like they're older, right?
Yeah.
They have more education, they have more of this, they're more established in their careers. They just have more experience being consumers. And I just think it's an interesting time to be planning,
When you were talking about showcasing work, let's specifically talk about AI because we've talked in the past a little bit about it when it comes to Pinterest, for example, right? Because Pinterest, you can see all these images, which thanks to Reddit, I've learned that there is a thing in settings you can go to and turn AI off. You have to do it categorically.
Oh, okay.
But you can go in and because I was looking for, and this is like months and months ago, for a hairstyle idea.
Yeah.
And all these AI images were popping up. And I was like, what the hell? Like, I need a real looking woman to like have reality. Yeah. And so I just happened to stumble upon the tip on Reddit. So I went into settings and went to, it was like hair and beauty or beauty, something like that. And then you could do like transportation, like architecture. Like you can do all the categories that you don't want to see AI on. You can turn it off. So there's a pro tip there. But
okay, hot tip right out the gate. I love it.
But you've been mentioning like it's still a fresher topic right now, but in photography, that is a thing to start really paying attention to when you're trying to find your vendors, especially if it is a photographer.
And I don't, claim to know anything about the usage of AI as a photographer, because there are ethical ways to use AI. I believe they've discovered ways that you can do a faster editing and things like that. But we just have to be careful when we're looking at photographers. Like, I'm seeing a lot of discussion and discourse around, well, how do I know someone's not using AI in the wrong way? And there's some great advice actually coming out of some really fantastic people. I mean, go look at Vanessa Joy. She's doing a great job with that. And it's talking about the idea of, well, ask for full galleries, do your due diligence. Like, there are things you could be doing, but it's also that power of social proof. I mean, not to put it on publicity for a second, I want to be careful here because I'm certainly not touting my wares, because I'm always telling people, listen, go do your own PR if you want, but just make sure you're doing it. There's something to be said for, being quoted, being featured, having editors stamp you and say, no, this really is a great person. But it's also the testimonials, right? Like, people need to be prioritizing whether you're shopping around and looking at testimonials versus the other side of it, right? Which is going to be getting those testimonials and making sure people know that everyone else thinks you're great. Because anybody can sit there and say they're great, but like, until you actually have that third party kind of stamp of approval. So I think that's a big part of transparency right now. And I can't help but doing this because I'm in the throes actually of getting certified in reputation stuff right now, because it just kind of said that in crisis, it's just such a natural progression for what I'm doing, and I just have an interest in it. And I just think it's going to be interesting to see as we have these great consumers, but also, the conversations that are had around things that don't go well at weddings. And I will say, I really don't want to be negative. It's more like a cautionary tale of how we handle the situations that happen after the wedding, right? Like, I'm starting to see that's part of the reason I'm getting double certified, because I'm seeing more of these like fights play out on TikTok or Reddit. And are they deserved? Maybe not. Maybe I don't know. I don't know if that level is ever should be something that it comes to.
Well, you have mentioned this in the past. It may have even been our 2026 kickoff discussion, but TikTok having these, whether you are the couple that's in the middle of the planning process and you're dissing the vendor publicly, or you're the vendor that's being negative and dissing other vendors or the couple you're working with or just worked with, that could be a red flag all the way around.
With Threads, like, people post on it thinking it doesn't show up on Google. I was like, you do know, like, we're going to see that in the Google searches. Like, you be careful. But you're right, those things do play out, and it's interesting how you're right. We did chat a little bit about how people get pretty heated with that, and so it's kind of taking the emotion out of that and asking, like, what is a reasonable response to all of this? I think it's an interesting time. Of course, I'm like voyeuristically looking at the wedding industry, so it's an interesting time to be here and see how people are shopping and also how they're pushing their own wares.
So, what are you noticing most with couples right now? Because I know we have a lot of Gen Zers, like that's our biggest demographic right now with getting married, right? So what, for our couples listening, especially in that bracket, like what are things that they're looking at? What should they be considering when going through this process, especially now that things have been changing so much?
Taking the time to really be discerning, and don't hesitate to lean into the great references of friends, trusted family members. I do think that vendor recommendations will always be like 99% of the time that is going to be a strong way to go.
Yeah.
Like, I just heard Danielle Rothweiler, who I love. Oh my gosh, if you don't follow her on TikTok, please do. She's sassy and wonderful. Get her in her car with her sunglasses, and you just don't know what's coming out of her mouth. But she made a really good point recently, like, you're seeing all these controversies about these things and AI and all this. She's like, but the planners know. Like, the planners know the team. Doesn't mean we're going to go spill it, but we're going to use that filter to help you find the very best fits for your day. So don't be afraid to lean into your team. Don't be afraid to think beyond the norms of the wedding industry. We're getting more and more weddings on the submission side where they're just so different, and I could not be happier to see it. They don't fall into the structure of, nothing wrong with this, ladies, gents, those out there who do this, nothing wrong with a ballroom wedding, right? There's nothing, if that's what your dream is then
Follow
do
the
it.
dream.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
that's what it's like to be a Bridechilla, you know? But if you're someone who says that just doesn't appeal to me and I want to do it here instead, it's like, then go have it at a bowling alley. I don't know. Like, just do it, you know?
Oh, the bowling alley wedding. Actually, just last year, Nora, who's been on the show before, Nora Cully Tuck, engaged with Nora. She did this amazing wedding at Mahall's, which is like this bowling alley bar that's like older here in Cleveland.
Yeah.
It's the raddest fucking thing. Go to Engage with Nora and check out those images. I wish I could, I can't cite the photographer off the top of my head, but this Mahall's wedding was like so unique, so cool. Like, it really, just when you think like you kind of not seen everything, but you know that there's things outside the box that you can do. Something like that pops up and you're like, oh, yeah, I can so personalize my wedding or event, you know, whatever, to be really like us. And it was so, you could tell it just oozed this couple. Like, she really tapped into and leaned into their vibe and their things, you know? So, like, I'm glad you brought that up because...
Well, I just pulled up. I wanted to make sure I said it exactly correct. Katie, do you know Katie over at Brides on Fire? But like she's a queer fashion stylist. So she's amazing. She recently got married to her wife, and they did it. They're a few hours from me, north of me, in the DC area. Got married in their apartment, and it was wonderful. Like I didn't take part in the submission process. It's something that Katie did on their own, but it was just wonderful to see. Like, it was something so sweet about, like, fashion was obviously a big part of that. And you had the fashion, you had the living room, you had this intimate space. And I love that in the back you could see like their kitchen setup. I can't even explain it, but it was so intimate to like know what their morning ritual looks like. I don't know.
Yes.
That was on green wedding shoes. It was amazing.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
You don't really see that with weddings anymore. Like, back in the 50s, it was kind of traditional. Like, you went to so-and-so's house and got married and had your little cake in the dining room, but you don't really see that anymore. You see some engagement photos. Like, they'll do personal, like, in our home, you know, over the coffee or whatever, but I think that's a cool way, especially if you want to save money.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So that's the big thing too. Is so couples these days,
Jack the cat just keeps crying. So Jack's going to join us.
Pause for the kitty.
Pause for the kitty. He's going to join us. Hi, Jack, making your TV debut.
He's my own cat was a black cat for 18 years, Bella. So I love a good black cat. So, you know, when it comes to the couples, again, it's going against norms if they want to, not just for the sake of doing it, right? Like, if they want to do something traditional, do it like that. But also just being, you know, leaning into, like, these days, making sure those referrals are starting, doing your due diligence. I think one of the things we saw in Splendid Insights that popped up recently, and that's amazing. Splendid Insights, for vendors listening, does a great job talking about kind of the consumer reports of weddings and so on and so forth. And they said that this is really one of the first years that they have cited and seen statistically that couples are using AI to look for their couples. I mean, excuse me, look for their vendors. And you just have to be careful with that, right? Like, I mean, it's a place to start. Am I using ChatGPT every day? Sure. Is it constantly telling me I don't have a brain tumor? Absolutely. I've got it trained, right? No, girl.
But you have to do your due diligence. You have to still
do your due diligence, because some of the stuff that comes up is just wildly incorrect, right?
Yes.
So we just have to be careful of being a careful consumer in this day and age.
That happened with me with looking at brush ins. I was like, you know what? I'm kind of blanking. Like, I know there's some great ideas for, I forgot what kind of cuisine we were looking for, but I just popped in the chat or Claude, one of them, like, hey, like, what are some top 5 Cleveland-based restaurants of this, you know, cuisine? And 3 out of the 5 were long done. Like, they've been closed for well over a year. And it's like, well, this needs some updating.
Little bit of updating.
So I like fed the beast, and I was like, hey, just so you know, these 3 things closed. And it was like, oh yeah, you're right, these close and da-da-da-da. So you do. I'm so glad you're bringing this up, because
it's just, we got to be careful with it, right? AI can be a tool, but it can also make things harder on you and highly inaccurate, right?
What do you think about couples utilizing AI to just flat out plan their wedding? Because you're hearing that a lot more too. Like, hey, what kind of venue for this? And then what kind of cater? Like, they're like literally being their own planner.
I'm not saying it can't be helpful. I don't want to be ignorant here and say, oh, you shouldn't use it. Like, I think I have to be careful. I don't think it should replace a wedding pro. I don't. I think that, let me give you an example. In my world of publicity, if you reach out, say, who are the top writers I should reach out to pitch right now? And they give you a list of 5, right? And sure, they're going to give you some names that they pulled. They're not going to tell you that the first one was laid off in October. They're not going to tell you that the second one, their work keeps popping up, but they don't work there anymore. And it's because the magazines will go ahead and update with a little bit of content, and they're required to keep the published byline, right? They won't tell you the other one's on maternity leave or paternity leave. Like, they don't have that knowledge. Just like, Danielle, to her point, knows which photographers are not a fit or which venues are about to probably go under. Like, the AI can't do that. Like, it just can't. It doesn't have the tea. It doesn't have the real tea, like, of what's going on.
Just the venue closing, like that, just you saying that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's so true. And like, the venue's not going to tell you, hey, we just filed bankruptcy. Like, they're not going to tell you.
Well, there was someone who I worked with years ago, and I'm going to keep it super generic. It doesn't matter in what way I worked with them, but they worked at a venue that was well known and very posh and all those things. And every time they got paid, they had to go to the bank that the venue does business at to make sure there was money in their account to pay for their salary. And this was a very well-known, popular establishment. It's since changed hands. It's much better now. I knew that, and I was never going to pick up on that, right? Like, they're just not. You can't believe what you see online. I mean, Lord knows I know that at this point. And so, could you do some rudimentary things? Sure. Are there some basics? Sure. But there's a lot to bear in mind too. It might encourage you to do one of the, what do they call it? The Catholic pause, when you have that ceremony and then you wait like 3 or 4 hours to have the reception. And ChatGPT wants to be your hype person. So they're like, yeah, do that. But then a planner of any was like, hey, like, I always have a problem with the Catholic pause. I don't like them.
I do too. No offense, guys. If you're planning it.
I think that's it's you wanting an evening event and not like no, I have huge problems with it. I did it once recently. I went to my cousin's wedding and it was actually really great because they gave you like, we just went back. I got wine for everybody. We had a good time on the beach. Like, fine. Like, I'm not going to complain about that, right? But like, most of the time, if people are like not resourceful in a travel sort of way, what they're going to do is show up way too early to the venue, and the venue won't be prepared because they don't need to be prepared.
Or they'll show up drunk because they had 4 hours. So what are they going to do? So they just go drinking, spending money drinking, which is more money they're spending.
Yeah, like, it's gross. And so AI can't do that for you. A lot of the AI is meant to be a hype person for you and agreeable. And you need, if you want a successful wedding, you need people who are willing to push back respectfully when your ideas are bananas. Like, or offer you alternatives that are not so bananas.
My boyfriend Dave told me to put in Chat and Claude, feel free to push back if necessary. That way they're not constantly
like, yeah,
only telling me exactly what they think I want to hear. They'll definitely give me some pushback. Like, but let me gently say, I told them, I'm like, hey, I'm a highly sensitive person. So like, give me pushback. I can handle things. I am also an Aries, but be a little bit more gentle in your delivery. Don't just like,
100% on that. Like, you got to let me know.
See, feeding the beast.
Yeah. Feed the beast. This is who I am. So work around me. Mm-hmm.
So what else are we learning with these recent insights that from the conferences and everything else that you've been involved in?
So, like I said, AI is on the top of everybody's tongue. I'd say Reddit continues to be, this interesting resource for couples and vendors alike. It's a great social listening tool. It's interesting because the way I look at it, it seems like, and I don't want to speak on behalf of the engaged couples of the world. I fully recognize I'm a 45-year-old married lady with a kid and cats, right? So I'm not, but this is purely on observation. But, they see this as a safe space. It's also very public. So I find that very interesting, where we kind of think, oh, this is my safe space. It's like, it is, but the whole world could be watching when it comes to that as well. And so, we're watching that and we're seeing how couples are using it. I think a lot of people say, hey, that's just for budget couples. And that's not true. Anyone who's spent a moment on Big Budget Brides, I've done an AMA over there. That was like the coolest I ever was, right? Like, I did an AMA on Reddit. I was like,
awesome.
Hey, I'm so Gen Z. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry about your eyes. But, you got to be where they are. And so paying attention and using it as a social listening tool and learning from it with a grain of salt, knowing that you're going to have people on there who are not telling the truth. There aren't people that you actually know. So we need to remember that and be mindful of that. But I think that's just going to continue to be a hot spot. Adriana McDermott of Ava and the Bee is actually one who really, she and I had some fun talks about it a few years ago, but she's the one who's really taken it on the road and talked about it as a social listening tool. So I want to make sure I give her credit where credit is due. But that's where you can see, what's the mindset? This is where I mine some of my article ideas sometimes. Like, we come up with ideas and say, that actually is something that people are going through. When you see these Reddit threads, oftentimes I'm asking through my AI tools, like, what are the top things being talked about on AI this week, like for weddings and so on and so forth, because it is interesting to see. And it's a lot about, like, in destinations, it's a lot about what are the expectations of the guests, and the guest experience is really big right now, you know?
Probably how much they have to pay, like what do you pay versus them because you want them to leave.
Yeah, no, and like what's expected, having things over a holiday weekend on a destination or things like that. Like, you just, what's right, what's wrong, what should we be doing or not? So I think, I think it's going to be an interesting tool, that sense of community, because, I don't envy Gen Z because they didn't live through the 90s, and the 90s were amazing because we didn't have phone. Well, I had a phone at 9. No, I didn't. No, I didn't have a phone till like '03. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't have a phone. So the '90s were amazing because you didn't have, like, you had community and you weren't on your phones all the time. Like, my kid doesn't have a phone. He's in the 7th grade. Like, it's amazing to see the community that's built from that. And so these guys don't have it. And so they are searching for community more online, whether it's through
Yeah.
sharing on TikTok, whether it's Reddit, and so on and so forth. And for vendors, guys, this is your way to really kind of listen and pay attention to how things are being planned, because the thing is, as we all age, everybody ages, right? Whether we like it or
Yes.
not, and we age, that these couples are statistically staying the same, and it's going to take a little bit more to better understand what the planning is. And so I would encourage the couples out there, though, to find your community, because this can be such a stressful time. No one expects you to know how to plan a wedding or an event for 150 people, right?
And if you find a vendor you bond with, lean on them for that kind of support and see who they recommend to also be. Maybe they know a group in your area. Maybe they know other vendors that, could be that same kind of wedding planning community for you.
Uh-huh. Absolutely. I think it's always been great. There's different groups and so on and so forth. And because sometimes your friends, if they're in different times in their life, they're different ages, they're just not going to understand. So it's good to find that community.
Especially if you're the first one getting married in your group, that always sets off
The
a
first
new
or one of the
firestorm.
last ones are tough, right? Because the first ones have no experience, right? So that's not to be expected. But then if you're one of the ones, like, in a timeline that's a little bit later, that's also an interesting one, because if you think about it, and I don't want to think about a traditional timeline. I want to be careful of that because I have a lot of friends who don't have kids. But statistically, some of those folks are going to have kids. They're not going to be, like, they're just going to be in a different mindset. It may not be, they want to be good friends, but they won't be as helpful because they have a baby, like, spitting up on them. They're like,
Or they've been like a been there, done that mentality, maybe.
yeah, because it's hard,
Yeah.
because something that seems really big to you in the planning process, oh my gosh, they refused to wear pink, and then you've got someone who got 2 hours of sleep last night. I mean, very little is gonna rouse me from anything if I've only gotten 2 hours of sleep, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh. So speaking of Reddit though, I do have a little obsession with the weddings. Am I the asshole? I love Am I the Asshole? I love
It's
seeing everyone's
so,
advice to it. Like, it's there. That's a fun community.
I need to spend a little more time over there. It's one of those things, I see them a lot, like, being read on TikTok, which is, like, my
Yeah.
place where I love to be, basically, just as a voyeur. And again, not to go back to this, like, certification I'm doing, but it's so interesting because I'm doing with the PRSA, which is Public Relations Society of America. So shout out to them for all this great content. But they said something in my crisis training that once they said it, I'm like, I have felt this my whole life when it comes to difficult situations, but I never put it into words. So thank you, PRSA, for doing this. But what would a reasonable person expect of you? That I'm going to live that for the rest of my. I got 2 things.
What would a reasonable person expect of you?
Isn't that interesting?
That
No,
that's yeah,
that
I love
blew
that.
the lid off. I've got 2 things I'm saying now. One is I actually did my own crisis training, and I said, "1, I'm done with unreasonable people. Like, I am at the age where I'm done. You're unreasonable. I did, like, there's a line, and I'm done with it. 45 years of
Boundaries.
unreasonable." Yeah, these are my boundaries. But when you're going through the thick of it and you're in your wedding planning and saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm being asshole," you got to take a step back, and maybe you find the people who are willing to push back when needed and trust it, because your bestie's probably going to hype you up, maybe something your relationship with them. But ask yourself, okay, what's reasonably expected here? When I have someone who's a wedding guest who is mad because I'm asking them to, or like, maybe there's always a lot of wedding party drama, right? So it's like, oh, you've got destination and they're spending all their money to go to that, which that's tough. But then what if you're also asking to do a bachelorette in Vegas and it's going to cost everyone $1,000? Guess what? That's unreasonable. That's unreasonable to most people. Sorry, am I the asshole? Yes. Yes.
No.
No, but you can turn it down too. So that's what you do, is you go back to, am I the asshole? It's like, well, another side of it is, what's a reasonable expectation in this situation if I actually remove the emotion, which is hard to do in wedding planning, you know?
Oh my gosh, so true. I love that. I want to live that now as well.
I'm living it. Like I'm living it. Like I've been seeing, you know, a lot with these controversies in the vendor space, people go after each other. It's kind of like this dark side of the wedding industry that I wish I did not see happening sometimes. And people have to find ways to protect themselves from that and from the unreasonable. And so now that I've witnessed what I've witnessed and then I hear that, I was like, yes, that's what I'm living now. Like if there's an unhappy, like if someone comes to me and says, I got a bad review, it's like, well, don't panic because you think everybody in the world saw it, but like no one saw it. You know what I mean? When it comes to that. So yeah, we just have to live that.
So good. All right, Meghan, what's next on the docket? What's the hot topic we should know about?
I would love just a minute to touch upon pay to play, which is something I talk about all the time in person. If someone saddles up next to me at a wedding event, it's like literally the first two questions they ask. But we don't talk a lot about it in the what we call the B2C space, which is your space, right?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that for a
For
second?
you couples, yes.
For you couples out there, listen, as a publicist, I understand that we talk a lot about the importance of As Seen in Style Me Pretty, The Knot, like these trusted publications. I also know that Vogue is the big get. I think it's an incredible publication. I think the team over there has an amazing sense of style and fashion, like things that I could never do. And I am an avid reader of Vogue weddings myself for fun. Like I enjoy it. With that being said, there are several outlets, Glamour, Tatler, British Vogue, not to be confused with Vogue, British Vogue, Vanity Fair, where there are places now where wedding pros can pay for an advertisement. They can pay for an advertisement. So let's say British Vogue, which does do editorial as well, and they do beautiful work, but British Vogue marketing advertising reaches out and says, hey, for X amount of money, it's typically like low four figures, we will go ahead and feature a handful of images. We're talking one image this big on a page in a magazine along with, 20, 25 more, maybe. I don't know the exact number. And it will say Vogue special advertising section again for British Vogue. And then what you can do is say that you've been in Vogue, right? And they think that accelerates their gravitas, that accelerates their level, that will attract the right people. And what's really interesting about that, and let me be the first to say, as a publicist, I have nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with advertising. It is a paid way to control a message going out about you.
And that's how the publications can stay in business as well.
Yeah, and we want the media to stay in business. I want free press to be able to be profitable and stay in business. I do. Not just as a publicist, but because I believe in the free press. But there is a disingenuous way that the wedding pros, not all of them, but some of them have rolled out these, oh my goodness, look at me. Again, it goes back to transparency, right? We were talking about. And they'll say, I can't believe this day has come. They asked, I'm here, I'm featured, I'm being celebrated by Vogue. And there are ways to do it that you could be a part of a marketing campaign and be very clear. But instead, people are giving the impression that Vogue was knocking down their doors. And that was not the case, that they were knocking down their doors. And the vendors caught on pretty quickly. Like it's interesting. We've got an eagle eye to it because we see the wrong logo being used. They'll use a Vogue logo instead of British Vogue. They will take the page from the outlet, which Vogue properly follows all FTC, all everything. This is advertising, and they will crop it out, which is disgusting. Like, oh, I hate that. That's so wrong, like morally, ethically. And I see it all the time. I'm starting to see an uprising among the couples, and I'm so proud of them for realizing this and seeing the education and understanding that, hey, listen, people advertise, but when they give the impression that they were featured, that becomes problematic because what else are they not telling the truth about, right, when it comes to that? And so it's one of these things where recently the hubbub came out. I think it was early March, because it was right before I went to Landlocked Luxury and I had to change my slides last minute. And someone from Vogue, from the weddings team, put in their stories, shout out to the pollen out there at extreme levels here in Virginia. And what it said, that this person posted in their stories, said, hey guys, Vogue has a new mandate that you can't use their logo on your overlay of your photos anymore. Right? You can't do that. And you'll get submitted for not prosecution per se, but legal. It's legal issue.
Yeah.
So now all these amazing people who have had amazing features in Vogue weddings who deserve it, right? These can't use the logo anymore on their photos. So and I actually said something, and then another photographer, I think it was Jose Villa said it too. I didn't realize we both said it, but I was like, well, that's why we can't have nice things, because we can't play nice, with that. So I think it goes back to the transparency here, and that's not to scare couples, but it's just use your eagle eye, because it's if someone's willing to crop out the advertising stuff and not be able to stand up to that, like, what else are they not?
What are they hiding?
No. You have to be careful. I had I don't mind sharing this now, but I had someone I worked with a bunch of years ago. So it's like so long ago, and I'll keep it very anonymous. But we wrapped up with them very amicably. Like the stuff they wanted, it just wasn't a fit for the content we were getting. So they would get published, but they wanted bigger goals. And so they ended up wrapping up with us, and a bunch of the stuff that we worked on with them did go live, and we let them know. We're very standard that we're still going to always let our former clients know, like we want to keep these nice relationships. So they get published a bunch of times, and then they paid for British Vogue, and then they posted on their whatever and said, the minute I stopped caring about publicity, all of these opportunities came to me. And we LOL'd for like 5 minutes. Like, I'm like, this is going in my memoirs, which will come out in 10 years. It was amazing. It was amazing. And so like people thought I'd be offended. I'm like, oh, I cannot be. That's amazing. And if that's the tip of the iceberg, what are they also not doing? Like, I don't even know.
What is the eagle eye that we can, like, how do we decipher this then? Because I would just see a stamp saying Vogue and just assume that, right? So how do you, without having a background like we do in media and publicity?
We've all internet stalked people. Please. We weren't all born knowing how. You can't tell me Gen Z doesn't know exactly. Like all those people on TikTok who's like, here's this one photo, one piece of me with one piece of my hair. And they're like, you live at 123 Main Street Avenue, Omaha, Nebraska. Like they can do it.
So stalk out these vendors as if they're an ex.
So first of all, again, I saw a bunch of photographer things last week asking for full galleries, right? If a planner's like, oh, I've been there a million times, like, great. Well, I'd love to see, do you have any blog posts? Do you have any gallery? Like, I'd love to see the weddings that you've done there. Like, don't be afraid to ask the question.
Ask for receipts.
Yeah, I want the receipts. Like, and they should be able to provide them. I mean, you don't want to be completely distrustful, because you shouldn't be.
Right.
Like 98% of the wedding pros I've ever met are some of the best people I've ever met in my life. Like, they just are. And I've met thousands of people.
But we're warning you, because there are those disingenuous, especially some newbies that might be like thinking they need the clout.
It's desperate. We see it across all industries. And so if they are featured, go ahead and do a little digging just to make sure, if British Vogue, if you see the page, it's advertising. So you already know that that's out. You can run searches on things just to see how it got connected and connect the dots a little bit if you want, just to do a quick, it will take 10 minutes, right? It's something that we do. And it's just something we all have to be careful for. And vendors have to be careful too. We're actually, if I may, for the vendors for a second, I need to get a good photo for it, but we're about to update our, like the pinned Instas. And the thing for that is such prime real estate. So we usually put some of our top recent press on there, but we're going to replace one out. And it's going to be about transparency and posting our press, because we want to really take a stand and say, we're only going to post the submissions, the features, the real wedding features that we do. If ABC Planner is our planner and they got featured by means otherwise, we're not featuring that, because we didn't do that. And we also think everyone else should be doing that and should follow that lead. Right?
Yes.
We're going to say that if this was a collaboration, like we have a Vogue feature that we're waiting on, we're very excited about, but it was a collaboration with the bride. Like I am absolutely giving credit to that, because I don't want to give the impression it was all Meghan Ely and her team, with that. So we're going to we're working on it. I just have to get the right verbiage down and stuff like that. But I think in this time, I would encourage people to have a policy, whatever it is for their own company. I would encourage couples to ask for, well, what is your policy when it comes to what you're featuring, and so on and so forth.
Actually, following your Instagram and your website and what you offer, because you have so many amazing pros, many of which have been guests right here on Bridechilla giving their expert advice, they can seek out vendors through you as well, because your people have been featured, genuinely featured, not fake featured, on all these different sites.
And I never thought like, oh, hey, why don't you just go check out our people? No, I appreciate that. Just took 17 years.
See, I'm just doing the
It's
publicity for you, Meghan.
yeah, thanks, my hype lady over here. But no, it's true. It's these guys are tested. Now, do I work with them and do events with them? No, like obviously, still have to get testimonials and things like that. But they do get featured, and they have wonderful work.
I love it. All right, Meghan. Any last piece of advice for our couples in their planning journey?
It's one day. It's one day. It's going to be this magical day. If you want it to be, if it's not, that's fine too. But it's one day. You're going to have so many more days, so many more hours, so many more minutes of your life, willing here. And let's not put unnecessary pressure on a single day and a whole existence. That's you, right? I look back on my wedding day and I'm so fond of it. I really am. But that didn't make or break my life. It's just a fond memory among many fond memories that I'm grateful to have in my life, right? There are other days that compete with that day for the joy that it brought me, and that's okay as well. So please just know it's one day in your entire existence, and you should give it only that much emotion, knowing that it's just the one day.
Speaking of your wedding, I actually just referenced it last week when I was in Vegas.
Did you?
So my boyfriend Dave was telling my coworker Anthony's younger, about the show Lost, and I go, oh. My friend Meghan Ely, when she got married, she had Lost cookies because she loved the show so much.
Dharma.
I referenced it.
Awesome. You're so sweet. It was so fun. My wedding was a day. My husband and I paid for it. And so it was definitely on a budget. I was so lucky that there were wedding pros in town who were very generous to us. We didn't ask them to, like, people, my cake was gifted. My cakes were gifted to me. One of my planners in town gifted me her services. So I know I was in a much better position than many. But we kept it simple with a few personalized things. And it's so much fun. We still reference it. Like, we still reference that day. Also, a year later, we went, and because we were in Ireland, we didn't go on a honeymoon but I went for work. We renewed our vows out there. And we actually recently went back to Dingle after all those years and brought our son there and showed him the pub where we partied after, as one does, celebrate his 13th birthday there as he raised a Coca-Cola. Yeah, in a pub, as 13-year-olds often do, with his little Coca-Cola. But, there, like I said, there are a variety of days. But yeah, it was really good. Like, we left without being in debt. I mean, listen, were our checking accounts really semi-empty after that wedding? Yes. But yeah, I was like, woo!
But were you deep in debt to start off the marriage in financial distress? No. And that's the goal, Chillas. That's the goal.
There was not a single debt owed after that wedding. Again, I was in a place of privilege because I had friends who had offered. But if I had not had those offerings, the wedding would have been smaller. We would have never jumped over that line. You know what I mean? Because we still have to, the day after the wedding, 2 days, within a week, you're going to have to go grocery shopping. You're going to have to fill your gas tank, like life goes on.
Reality sets back in. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Meghan, so much. Remind everyone how they can find you.
You can find me over at ofdconsulting.com. Find me over at Instagram, OFD Consulting. Don't find me at TikTok. I'm watching cat videos. Like, that's fine. You're not going to see much over there. But otherwise, find me over at Instagram. Certainly, drop me a DM if you listen to this. It's always nice to connect with couples. I did an AMA on Big Budget Brides, too, if anyone's looking. You'll see me somewhere in there.
I love it. And of course, you can follow us on at Bridechilla, and you can follow me at Cleveland Leah on all the things. I finally joined TikTok, so
yes,
I haven't posted a lot, but I'm on there. Thanks, Meghan. Always a joy to have you on here.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with a sponsored segment from Sandals. Welcome back, Chillas. We're here once again with Marsha Ann Donaldson, who is the Director of Romance and Weddings at Sandals Resorts. Marsha Ann, it's always so wonderful to have you back on the show.
It's always great to be with you and all of the listeners and viewers.
You just ooze joy, and it's probably because you live in paradise.
I do.
Which we're going to talk about today. So let's jump right into it. Caribbean weddings. Tell us why, like, the backdrop and the beauty of it is so enticing, and why we need to consider coming to Sandals Resorts to have our wedding there.
So when you think Caribbean, I want you to think vibrant colors I want you to think shades of crimson when it's sunset. I want you to think blue skies, fluffy white clouds, azure blue waters. I want you to think vibrant colors with the flowers that we have, the flora, the fauna. And then I also want you to know that beyond the seas, we also have the beautiful backdrop of the mountains, the rolling hills, the lush greenery, what you could consider verdant pastures. And so the diversity that comes with the Caribbean and then having destination weddings within the Caribbean, I believe that that diversity also speaks to the diversity of personalities that will come and have a wedding. And what you want to do is to find the location within the Caribbean that appeals to you most. So are you one that wants a long beach and you think of a 7 Mile beach and you think of Negril, Jamaica? Are you one that wants a more scalloped type beach? Or you want more of a cove beach or a 2 Mile beach? Like, name it. We have it to offer. And then above and beyond that, do you love the gardens? And if the gardens are special to you, why not choose one of our locations? You think of Halcyon in St. Lucia that has beautiful gardens that really feels like your secret garden. And so the diversity that exists allows you to have not just a beautiful Caribbean destination, but great wedding locations that are considered picturesque. And we can make them as intimate for a party of 2 to as large as 150, if that's what you're looking to do.
I'm glad you really are bringing up the whole garden aspect and all these other things, because I think when people think beach, Caribbean destination wedding, they just picture barefoot on the beach and, which is wonderful. And I'm all for that too. But there's so much more that you offer. And part of that is the Maid of the Caribbean ethos that you have. So really tell us more about that.
We want to be able to represent who we are and the authenticity of what the Caribbean brings. And when you think Caribbean, I would challenge you to think, as I name some of the points, that this should automatically resonate with you. So think Caribbean, you think of locally inspired menus. You think of vibrant island decor. You think of the rich flavors that come along with our music, the entertainment. You think of excursions that would take you through what could feel like a magical rainforest. And you think of flavors and spices and rhythm that represents the heartbeat of what the Caribbean has. And then you think of excursions, which could be as laid back as a romantic catamaran cruise. You think of more cultural tours. And I really want it to feel like the tapestry and the spirit of the Caribbean. And so that could go from an entertainment being a John Cooner band if you're in the Bahamas, a reggae band if you're in Jamaica. And you think of food. When you think Caribbean and you think of food, you're thinking spices, you're thinking of fusion of flavors and everything in between.
I love it. That actually goes really well with my next question, because when couples are actually planning their wedding with Sandals, you have an amazing team in all of your resorts. How do you make sure that the Caribbean authenticity shows up in all the details? You've already listed some, but what else can we look forward to when actually going through that wedding planning process and trying to make sure we infuse the details?
One wants to picture it that they're going on this journey as they're planning their experience, and we have a team that works along with every single couple to do that. But how do you integrate Maid of Caribbean? And a part of that integration is really asking the very important questions. Some of it includes, what color do you want to express your actual wedding in? And are those colors representative of the Caribbean? Because if we can pair, if you like the tone of coral, or if you like the vibrant colors that represent the Caribbean, it's our duty to be able to share with you, would you like a tropical arrangement? Would you like a tropical bouquet? Would you want your centerpiece or your ceremony to represent flower types that are synonymous with here? Would you want to have ginger lilies? Would you want to have a torch? What are some of the expressions that we can add? And then you think of entertainment, whether one is walking down the aisle or a dinner party with their friends and family, or entertainment to break the rhythm of from dining into that of dancing. Do you want a fire dancer? So how are we expressing it? It could be the selection of the meals. that they want to have as well. And don't just focus on the wedding day. We have pre-wedding celebration events.
True.
And then what? Yeah, absolutely. And then
Yeah.
forget about the traditional styles of a stag party. Instead, let's get the guys to go out and actually have an experience that is a fun, adventurous one. Do they want to go on an ATV bike ride? Is it that they want to go horseback riding? And so they're feeling that machismo that goes along with coming up to the big day. Would the girls want to actually relax and unwind in the spa, but also infusing that with the scents that are the true tropical essence of the Caribbean as they unwind? So I would safely say that there's so much to offer from the moment they're planning the journey to the actual pre-wedding celebration event, to the wedding day itself, and beyond.
I love that you brought up the different excursions you can do in a bachelorette, hen, stag party idea. Like, that is so cool. Like, it did not even cross my mind. Yeah, you think about things like the welcome party, maybe reception, but yeah, you're there for a few days, 7 if you really want to make it, the whole vacation experience on top of the wedding. But yeah, something to definitely consider. That's a lot of fun and definitely breaks up the traditional, like, going to Vegas or just going to the bar or whatever. Like, you can have this shared experience that you're going to remember for a lifetime, like the memories you make doing that.
Absolutely. And one of the things I really want to highlight is that going elsewhere may require so much more planning and coordination and getting everybody together. I safely say, especially couples who are inviting friends and family, at the very least, they're also getting a mini vacation experience as well. So they're getting a chance on the schedule that's, it's not the wedding day event, but on days that they're there for leisure, they're going off to the jerk shack and doing their own thing. They're doing a water sports related activity and they're immersing themselves in what we're able to offer. I always safely say, make sure that a part of your planning journey, you're not limiting your experience to just focusing on the wedding. It needs to be fun, memorable, and exciting. It needs to be experiential. It needs to be a story that's told beyond the day. And so going off the resort and experiencing the destination with things that are locally inspired makes all the difference in the world.
So with the excursions, you obviously have an amazing team that could help coordinate that while on site. But let's get back with the wedding, because the wedding teams, we've talked about this in previous conversations on here before, but they really do an amazing job of helping make sure it's not just this like cookie cutter planning experience. They're really helping you curate something that's completely you. So talk to us about your amazing team and how they work with the couples and what else they offer.
So one of the things we take great pride in doing is having an amazing wedding team so that we can cradle our couples along their journey. And why is that so important? Many a times, if you think of a destination wedding, folks automatically will clutch their chest and think, oh my goodness, this could be stressful. Yeah. And we want the opposite to be true. We want the word seamless, frictionless, and at ease to be associated with the destination wedding planning journey with us. And we have a team that's committed to that. And what our wedding team will do, in fact, we want you to feel like celebrities, as I've shared with you in the past. You have an entourage. Your wedding team, you have a team that works with you planning the dream, where for however long or short you're planning. So you might be planning your wedding 6 months out. You might be planning it 12 months out. But you have a dedicated team that's working along with you on this planning journey. And then we have a team on the resort of your dreams, that will be cradling you from there, from the moment of arrival through to your wedding day, on into your honeymoon. And they're the ones that will deliver on everything that you have been planning along your journey. And why is that important to you? What are some of the things that you're discussing on your wedding planning journey? I believe always to establish what you know is your heart's desire for your actual big day. What are some of the non-negotiables for you? And in having the conversations, I want wedding planning to feel like you're talking to your best friend. Tell me everything.
Oh, yeah.
What do I need to know? Yeah, it's so important because this is your day. And when we think of wedding planning, especially in today's world, a lot of folks might be having their legal wedding done at home and they don't necessarily want to do their legal wedding in the destination, but they're doing that and no one else knows. This is their opportunity to still treat it with the same level of grandeur as they would, whether it's two of them or, like I said, 150 of them. And what that means is talk to me like I'm your bestie. So you're going to say to me, Leah, you would say things like, here are the colors that I love the most. This is the kind of entertainment I want. Here's my favorite song. I am picturing this particular tablescape and ceremony setup. The wedding planning team will take what you have expressed. We work with incredible local suppliers and providers. You can integrate the cultural aspect into the wedding as well. And our mission from a wedding planning standpoint is to identify getting as much of your dream as you desire and making that a reality. So it's our job. We do not have our couples having to do any of the work on their own. They don't need to talk to an external supplier to find out what's needed. They don't need to talk to an external entertainer.
Yeah.
I want it to be positioned. We are the one-stop shopping pleasure. Leave it with us. Express that dream. Our job is to really integrate how that dream can become a reality, sourcing the suppliers that have that, and those additional costs that you are putting on. I don't even refer to it as money. I just refer to it as how you make your dream a reality that happens to come at a cost.
Yeah, and that's a great point when it comes to the planner, because even if you're having a wedding at home, right, and you happen to be able to hire a planner, they're going to help coordinate with the different vendors, but you're still having to help choose those vendors. The great thing is there's already a team in place and the planner works with them constantly. So you know you're getting this great coordination, these amazing vendors, and you don't have to worry about handling all those logistics.
A big part of it as well is that from a legal wedding standpoint, all our weddings are recognized everywhere in the world. And so we deal with the documentation handling on their behalf as well. They just need to give us the required documents and we do all of the processing for them. And we ensure that they receive their certificate in the time frame that each island has as a designation. So what does this mean? All we want them to do, tell us the dream, show up on the resort, allow us to make the dream come true, and all they have to do is to show up and be in love with one another. I mean, how difficult is this?
Right? I love it. The last thing I want to make sure we touch upon before we get to wrap up here is your Nature's Vow program and your commitment to sustainability. Let us know more about that, because it's a big thing here at Bridechilla to talk about sustainability in every facet of that.
We have particular ethos that we stand on, and the environment happens to be one of them for obvious reasons. We want to make sure that the Caribbean is well taken care of. And so we entered into Nature's Vows, knowing that we want our couples to not just be rooted in love. You get it? Rooted trees.
I love a play on words, Marcia Ann. I love a play on words. I really do.
We do want our couples to be rooted in love, but more importantly, we want them to understand that they can play such a significant role within the Caribbean, but specifically, we're doing this in Jamaica. We're doing this in Turks and Caicos to start. And on these respective islands, just picture for yourself that even beyond your wedding day, your tree planting ceremony, which is really getting two sets of soils together, a tree that actually will be planted in your honor, and knowing that years to come, that to me is a legacy of love.
I love it. Yes.
Yes. So the planting, which will be symbolic for them, that the ceremony is actually taking place for them to have as a part of their union. But when we take it away from where they are and have it rooted in the soil in its designated area, can you imagine contributing to a canopy of trees over time?
And you can come back every year for your anniversary to visit your tree and see how it grows.
It's a special initiative. And now more than ever, we really want folks to know that this is something that they can do, because you're leaving a little part of your love behind, but you're allowing your love to grow in the form of shade trees that are going to be so well needed for years to come.
Talking about this makes me think of how for so long it's been popular to have the sand ceremonies.
Yes.
Where you do the blending of the sands. Is that very popular in the Caribbean because of all the beautiful sand?
Absolutely. It still is very popular, and especially for those who have chosen to have a beach wedding.
Yeah.
Right. So it still is very, very popular. And it's so nice to be able to have a choice. It could very well be that those who are wanting to have more of a garden wedding setting, they are also now more inclined to choose to do nature's vow, to incorporate that in their respective experience. So tree planting is one aspect. But the other thing to bear in mind is the decor and design for nature's vows. Those are repurposed, so folks are choosing big potted plants instead of fresh cut flowers. We're working with local artisans so they can actually have artisan type design souvenir options that they can gift their guest with as well. Another part of what is so important about not just sustainability, but really loving and leading with heart, many couples wish to actually donate their garments after their weddings. So the donation of wedding gowns, that can actually be a part of a give back for someone who says, I want to bless somebody else and I want to leave a little bit of me behind in doing so. So the footprint and heartbeats are a part of what we know that we can integrate into our weddings. And we're so proud to have this as one of our options as well.
Marsha Ann, that's so impressive that you guys offer that. And it's part of the package, right? This is an additional, right?
Right. So there are elements of this. So, I mean, you're going to be paying to do your tree planting ceremony. That's a part of what you would do, but certainly giving back on your gown if you're purchasing souvenirs. And I think the beauty about that is understanding that your impact is beyond the hotel. So when you support a local artisan, that does everything to someone's family and the economy in general. And folks should really come and experience this. We have our test drive program. So if they're thinking of doing a destination wedding and we're saying, hey, I do want to do this, we can qualify them effectively, match them up to the right hotel. They come and they do a test drive experience. And once they have done that, it's our expectation that they will make their final decision of saying, I wish to say I do at Sandals.
Oh, that's wonderful. Marsha Ann, I hate that we have to wrap this up today, but how can we get more information on Sandals Resorts and the wonderful packages and programs you offer?
Fantastic. So we ask all of your listeners, they have options. We ask them to call 1-877-SANDALS or their travel advisor, or visit our dedicated landing page to learn more about your wedding on us package, and our promotion page at www.sandals.com/yourweddings on us.
Thanks, Marsha Ann. Always a joy to see you and your smiley face.
It's great to connect with you. And we're just saying to everybody, fall in love, say I do in paradise with us.